Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Women Have Needs Too. Women have needs too. Right now, I need to understand the importance of teaching effective note-taking. I am so excited about this topic because I take a lot of notes and I know I could be a lot better at it. So today we're here with Phyl Macomber, and thank you for joining us today, Phyl. She is an award-winning speaker, best-selling author, and has been teaching education for all abilities internationally to thousands and thousands of people. And she has a best-selling book, Every Child Can Learn, Your Roadmap to Inclusive Education. And Phyl, today we're talking about something I am so passionate about because I take a boatload of notes. And I always felt like when I was in school that there was a better way. And, I never learned a better way, but I feel like I've become more effective in my note taking. However, I know I could probably be 100 times better. And I know also that not only in school, in business, when you're meeting with the client, when you're meeting with the prospect, effective note taking is important, because if you leave something out, or if you're disorganized, you may not have all the information you want and need when it comes down to putting that proposal together or studying for that test. Am I right?
You are 100% spot on. And Linda, I think a place for us to start our conversation is for any person to know what their learning style is, because there's all different types of note taking, and one is not better than the other, but one is better for you.
I love that approach, Phyl, because you're so right, because I'm a right brain person. And, I really, really am a little jealous of left brain people. I wish I was more left brain. I think I'm balancing that out a little bit because I work on it, but I know that just because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for me. Right?
Exactly. That's right.
So let's talk about that. You're leading. This is your show, baby.
All right. Well, learning styles can fall into let's simplify it, specific categories. You could be a visual learner. You could be an auditory learner. Mm-hmm. You could be a hybrid of both, visual, auditory. You could be a hands-on, kinesthetic kind of learner, or you might need to do all three. And so kinesthetic means you're going to have some kind of movement there, right?
Yeah.
You're going to build something. And, these are all learning styles of children we support in education, but our learning style is our learning style through adulthood. And just like you said, Linda, you can certainly adopt other things and try to improve some of your not so strong areas.
Well, I need to.
Yeah, all of us do. You had said, oh, well, I'm really right brain. I'm a left brain person. And I've really tried to embrace some right brain things to make me maybe more creative and flexible and, those kinds of things. And, but again, back to know your learning style. And, here's a real life example. My husband, Rob, who is, as you know, my best friend, a mentor to me, and wonderful partner. He will say when we embark on a road trip, he'll say, Phyl, you know how I always view a car as a rolling university. That's what he calls it. Meaning he always listens to different audio CDs, podcasts, whatever it is. And he always makes the suggestion because he knows I love to learn, just like he is a lifelong learner. He will say, can we listen to this along the way? And I'm just like, whoa, because I am not an auditory learner. It is like nails on a chalkboard to me to
It
listen.
makes me go to sleep.
Oh my word. I'm thinking about everything else I want to think about. So I tune out whatever it is. And, I've said to him, Rob, we've been together for 33 years. I am not an auditory learner. Now I am happy to pick up and here's the transcript of this. And,
Right.
'cause sometimes for webinars or podcasts, Rob will download the transcript or whatever. And why is he doing that? Because a good presenter gives you things in different formats to meet learning styles, right?
Right.
But so I am a visual learner, visual and hands-on. That's my combo.
Me too.
You too? I was going to ask you, what's your
Yeah.
learning style?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I'm very visual.
Mhm. And it's interesting because we do need to teach the students that we support in education, A, how their brain works, B, how it works best, and that leads to their learning style.
Right.
So knowing that, how does that really funnel down, so to speak, to note taking? Well, there's different types of note taking. There's lots of different formats for note taking. Maybe we should just do the top 3.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start with one that is great for visual learners,
Okay.
which is mind mapping.
Oh, yes.
Right? Yeah. I see how happy you are.
Yeah,
you
because
go, no.
because I have a lot of mind mapping to do, but I haven't ever really, I've only done it once when I started my book.
Uh-huh.
And I want to learn more about it. So let's do it.
Okay. So mind mapping is really about starting with a main idea or what your topic is, and then having it branch out from there. And if you notice what I did with my hands, branch out from there, right?
Because it's like a clock. You go in.
And that's one format of mind
Okay.
mapping. Yeah, you could do it. And I call that circular, right?
Okay.
So your idea is in the middle of what you're taking notes on. And then you have things come off it, right? Like you said, similar to a clock. Mind mapping also could be you have an idea over on the left side, and then you build your map from top to bottom in some columns. So it looks more like a diagram, so to speak.
I've seen that as well.
Yeah. You also could do a compare contrast of 2 things. Say that you were note taking on 2 different types of shows that you had wanted to do for 2 different focuses with the same person. Like you and I have done a couple episodes together.
Yes.
You could use this strategy for your notes about Phyl Macomber's coming on my show. And so Phyl Macomber is the topic. And then we have 2 different things. Like our last episode was on a teaching strategy of I do, we do, you do. And then this episode is on note taking. And your notes could then fall under both of those categories in a mind map kind of way. But we call that a tree down, right? Where you're comparing 2 things. So, in this episode, this is what we need to make sure we mention. In this episode, this is kind of the focus we want to best support our listeners, right?
Right.
So mind mapping is really powerful to teach children or adults, right? And also think about with mind mapping, and you know me, I am such a fan of office supplies. I love office supplies. I'm a tech person too. I'm a technology consultant in education, but I am all about sticky notes. Okay. And we know sticky notes.
I am too.
You love sticky notes. I know.
My husband makes fun of me. My husband makes fun of me.
Well, I'll tell you, sticky notes are really powerful for mind mapping because sticky notes don't all come in the same size, do they, Linda?
No.
No. You have those little ones, and then you have ones like this, but you also can have ones that are even bigger that kind of look like even a legal pad. Some have lines on them, right? And also they come in different shapes. They're not always traditional like the one I'm holding up of the yellow pad. You could have ones in the form of speech bubbles and thinking bubbles. Those are kind of cool.
Oh, cute. Yes, I've seen those.
Yeah. So there's lots of different ways you could use things like this for note taking, because your big idea could be the bigger sticky note. The
Right.
supporting things that go with that could be the smaller sticky notes. And if you're not using sticky notes, then you can certainly create your own mind map thing with different sizes of squares that you would type into or run through your printer and then ink to paper.
And so you're putting them on a whiteboard?
You could put them on a whiteboard. You could put them just on, I tend to like to use folders.
Oh,
Yeah, so I will get folders also in different colors. Like, you know, I'm the author of the PAC teaching framework,
yes.
and it's a color-coded framework. You and I've talked about this before.
Love it.
So if I'm really taking notes on what different things mean and vocabulary, that kind of thing, green means go. We start with learning words. That's called the Learn About module in the PAC teaching framework. So I will have like green folders that I might put sticky notes on. If it's related to something like I need to read to learn, like I'm reading some articles and I want to take notes on those articles,
Right.
that's a read about. We dive into the sea of knowledge, and read about's color coded blue. So I'll have blue folders for that, and so on. So if it's totally just on some writing, like, oh, I want to write and submit another educational article, or I'm working on another book, which I am right now,
Right.
or a manuscript, I will mind map on a yellow folder, like different chapters of things. And that's how I will notate and talk about is color coded red. It's the cherry on the sundae. And, oh, these are things that I want to remember to tell Linda in our podcast, right? So if I was taking notes and said, oh, I want to make sure that I say this about this topic, I might create a red folder with sticky.
So you have the different colored folders to go with the topic.
And the different brain-based tasks. So when I see green, and our research shows this, when I see green, I know this is about like vocab concepts. Like, for example, the 3 types, let's talk about 3 types of note-taking. So I would probably have note-taking in the middle on the folder and say mind mapping, the second one, the third one, which I won't mention just yet. So we're talking about mind mapping. These are the 3 I want to mention. That would be in my green folder. Right.
All right.
So this
so I open up this green folder and I see 3 sticky notes.
Correct. Well, you would see, if you're note taking and you want to create your own notes in this folder, you could have your sticky notes on the side, and then you write, you pick, you put, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so if you didn't want to use sticky notes because you take a lot of note taking and you're starting to spend hundreds of dollars online on sticky notes, right? Common sense would tell you you could print out a template, right? And throw it through your printer or photocopier. And now you have multiple copies that you then could just grab a basic pen and have a pen to paper, or on your computer screen, and you could note take that way. And it's in the shape of a mind map.
I like that. I like that. I actually draw that sometimes when I'm taking the notes.
Me too.
I draw the circle out, and then I, when I'm, auditory, listening, and I'm taking my notes, I'll draw the circle and mind map it right there.
Yeah, and develop it. It's so funny you mentioned that, and I'm reaching over here.
Yeah.
That here is a mind map that I did for a school I support.
Oh, perfect.
Williamstown Middle High School. These are the 3 areas that we're going to discuss. This middle one is, 15 students. What about those 15 students? Now we're going to break them up here and here. This is mind mapping for note taking.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it's so simple, like you said, it's build as you go.
Right. Build as you go, and then you can branch out if you need to. And I love those, those lines you can just draw. It needs to go here. Right. And sometimes even when I'm just taking notes on lined paper, and then something else comes up, because I try to, and I don't know if this is, right or wrong. I don't know if there is a right or wrong, But if I know I'm going to be talking about 2 or 3 different subjects with one person, I'll have that header there and then leave space. And I know I want to talk about this other topic. So I have a header there with an underline. But then if something comes up down in this conversation that goes back to that last one, I'll draw a line to it.
Right.
Just so my mind knows, wait, that thought goes up here.
And I'm so glad you gave that example, because that is just a brilliant example to support having movable parts on a mind map. Like in the example I gave you, I can't move these notes around.
Right.
I did write as you go, ink is permanent here, right? But if I had these on sticky notes on this page, I could move them around and sequence them, and right? Because I will tell you, and this is just how my brain works, I don't do really well with I cross that out, blah, blah, blah. It's too visually busy for me.
If that happens, I have to rewrite the whole thing.
Me too.
And or type it up and say, okay, this is typing worthy,
Yeah.
and just rewrite the notes. And then of course I remember it more too, because now I've heard it, I've written it down, and now I'm typing it into a note.
Yeah. Yeah. And related to sticky notes, we were giving examples, and of course, our example could be used for anything that we talked about. We just discussed how we use it in our work environment, right? Yes. However, if I'm going to bring a sticky note to a grocery store, right? It is so much easier for me to go grocery shopping if the order of things on my grocery list are in the order I navigate the store.
That's what I do. That's so funny.
Because you're a visual person.
Because why?
You're a visual person.
Yeah. So I know all my produce is going in, and I'm not OCD. I promise I'm not OCD, but I put it in order that I know that I have to walk in that. I know where.
Me too.
I know where the cilantro is. So if I know that's the first thing I'm coming to, that's where I do it. If I know I need to go to the bread counter, which I try to stay away from, I put my bread and cheese. I write it in order of how I have to go around the store.
Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing this up is these 2 ways to do notes, right? One is a list making in the order you need to accomplish things, right? The other was mind mapping. They both could use sticky notes, but in different ways.
Okay.
Right? They are brain friendly, right? Yeah. Now, in contrast, my husband, who is a different kind of learner than me, if something pops in his head, he puts on here, veggie burgers, right? Which is way at the other end of the store that's not near the entrance, right? But he just, whatever pops in his head, this is how he takes notes. And he can go to the grocery store, and God love him, I'm thrilled that this works for him, because it doesn't work for me. He looks and he goes, oh yeah, okay, pineapple, Granny Smith apples, blah, blah, blah. And they're like way down here, over here, but he knows that's where he walks into the store, and he can navigate that list, but he has to cross it off because it's not in forced order of the way that he is working. I don't cross things off the list in my grocery list because I'm doing it in the layout of the floor plan.
Yes.
Right. And so the reason I'm mentioning this is so important when we're teaching kids in school, is if we're going to make lists of things, these are the things that you need for your project.
Right.
Let's take notes on everything you need for your project.
Right.
We're going to make sure that those supplies in the class, it's going to follow where he needs to go for those supplies in the class, because it's easier to process the list that way. It's no different than the grocery store, right?
Well, I think this is a really good analogy. When you go look up a recipe, the recipe better be in chronological order.
Absolutely.
I'm going to rip it up or delete it. If you don't tell me to preheat the oven, I mean, of course I know these days, but when you're learning how to cook, whatever, you're learning anything, put it in chronological order. If you're giving notes to someone else to do something, put it in chronological order.
Right.
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 I love it. Now, is there any one thing that stands out in note taking to be more effective?
Mhm. I'm so glad you asked that question. I'm going to go back to the grocery store example. If I wrote on my grocery list, and it doesn't have to be on a sticky note, because a lot of times I need something bigger than this. It could be a big sticky note. But
Right.
if I wrote fruits and vegetables as my header, and then I list what it is, and then I write frozen items, then I might write things like, meats and proteins, or, whatever,
Right.
dairy. Categorizing things with a banner or a caption is a great strategy. It's called a boxing method. And so you could be taking notes, even if you're interviewing someone, you could be writing notes, but whatever the header is, you box it out. So that way, here's your box of your header. You might say note taking, and then you might list the different kinds of note taking. And then you might say mind mapping. You put a box around mind mapping. When you go back to look at those notes, you're looking at the headers. It's like a table of contents you're creating within the body of your notes. It's a great strategy for kids, great strategy for adults.
I love it. I do that. I don't know why I started. I did it just for myself, so I wouldn't lose track of things, but I started boxing out headers, and I also put stars next to important information that I know I need to. This is the important stuff. This is the meat. This is the meat. This is the guts of it.
Yeah. I think also for people, regardless of their style, adopting what I call thumbnail sketching is a great way to quickly find things in your notes.
Okay.
Like I might be taking notes and then all of a sudden I have an idea of my own that's related to what I'm writing notes on. And I draw a light bulb and put the little lines on it. Right. And so I look for those light bulbs if I need to generate and say, what ideas did I have from this conversation with somebody? And I just look at the light bulbs.
I like that.
It's a visual scanning, quick, and easy. And
I like the light bulb. What I've been doing is, all my writing's going this way. And if I have a thought or if somebody says you need to contact this person, I turn it the other way and I write going the opposite way. That way it catches my eye and I'm like, oh, what was that about?
Right.
I like the light bulb though.
Yeah. I mean, there are things called 2-column notes. That's a third type. So we talked about.
We didn't even talk about the third type. Let's do it.
Yeah. So the third type is 2-column notes. And I do 2-column notes all the time, along with mind mapping.
Now, when do you use 2-column notes opposed to other styles?
If I know I'm going to be note taking across many, many pages, sometimes the mind maps get too busy for me. I'll have 10 mind maps and then I look and go, okay, this was a nice visual to start with, but now there's too many of those visuals for me. Okay. So I might take a mind map and now do a 2-column note on one of the points.
From that. Okay. All right.
And so let me tell you what 2-column notes are.
Sure.
2-column notes have over here on a narrow margin of your notes, you list what the topic is or the main idea.
Okay.
And then the main idea is here, and then you write the details of your notes in the wider column. And so now your notes are organized by topic, going down a thinner column and margin, and you can really organize your thinking, your learning as you're taking your notes, but then also after the fact, locating what you need to look for.
I like it.
I love, love, love 2-column notes. In fact, sometimes I'll even buy legal pads. They make, the higher end, nicer legal pads that you can find online or in like a nice stationery store where they even have that kind of setup on the legal pad. And then at the bottom, they might have things to do based on the notes that you took.
Yes.
Those are call to actions, as I call them.
Call to actions. Yes. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, you have filled us up with a lot of good information. Has anybody ever said that to you before?
No, but you know what I've said sometimes. I think I told you prior to coming on that I was teaching a seminar, and near the end of the seminar, I said, "Okay, we've been meeting for 3.5 hours. Are you filled out yet?"
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the valuable information. And
Welcome.
you always give good recommendations and great strategies for, enhancing our learning and enhancing our, note taking in general can be used for across the board, not
Exactly.
just students, for
Right.
people who are, meeting with clients or prospective clients.
Mhm.
And it's, I mean, do you train on this type of thing? Is this something a company could hire you for to help train their sales force on?
Absolutely. One strategy, just as we're finishing up here, that I taught in the business world was we all go to professional development, right? As professionals. And so you might be in a seminar and you're there thinking of certain clients. And if you're a teacher, thinking of certain students that you may want to do this with,
Right.
to supplement your mind mapping, 2-column notes, boxing strategy, create a grid. And I mean, you literally could write it with a pen, a quadrant,
Okay.
and then write those people in the header. And when a presenter says, "Oh, and this is a great strategy," you write the strategy down under the person's name that you want to share it with. And it's your call to action. So you get back to your day job and you say, "Wow, that was a great seminar. When I meet with Caleb, so-and-so, whether they're in the business world or a kid that you're working with, I'm going to use this strategy with them."
I love that.
Yeah.
That is, yes, because I have stuff pop up all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to tell this person about it. But if
Right.
I just write that grid and then
Yep.
put the names down, I can just fill in the topic, right?
Correct.
Wow. I love that. That's cool. That's really cool.
Very
I hope you
simple.
think it's cool too.
Yeah. And, it's all about being practical.
Yes.
And again, tying it to learning styles, right?
Yes. I was
Getting
just going to
to
say
know.
everybody's style is different.
Right. Right.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. Phil
Oh, my
Macomber,
pleasure.
yes, with the pact. And you, like I said, you always fill us up with so much wonderful information. So
Well, thank you.
yes, and so to you out there today, thank you for joining us. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and happy note taking.